Hey everybody, welcome back to Deck 10. The turbo lift doors have opened. And you see me, Matt, and there's that Matt. Hey Matt, how's it going? But we're not prepared for this. We see phaser fire going all over, left and right, as Captain Vadic has taken over the Titan. And how fun has Captain Vadic been, Matt? Oh my god.
Amazing.
All right. Not only to just season 3 of Picard, which has, just in of itself, what an amazing ride Captain Vadic's taken on, but just what a gift of Star Trek in total. Really, I love a villain that will leave absolutely no scenery behind because they have just consumed it all. They've eaten it for lunch.
Again, their portrayal of introducing these new characters and just it's like I hated Shaw when he came in, and now I love him. He's one of my favorites. Same thing with Vadic. They brought her in, and I'm like, this doesn't fit. I don't like her. And now we're in the 8th episode, and I'm like, I kind of want more from her.
More. Reconstitute yourself. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Don't be done. Please come back. Come back. It's funny that you mentioned Shaw too, because he's this episode he just kind of hung out. He had a couple of lines, but he didn't really contribute a whole lot, other than general antagonism that he does. But he was standing there with the crew, all beaten up and stuff, and there was a moment where they just panned across everybody that Vadic had, and I was just like, I can't believe Shaw's still with us. This character's not dead yet. I am blown away. I would have figured by episode 4 this character would have been gone. But here he is, still there.
It's like those old, what was it? The old, was it Timex commercials? Takes a licking and keeps on ticking.
That's exactly what Captain Shaw is. He's held together by duct tape and phaser wire or whatever it is that he and Jordy were geeking out about a couple of weeks ago. Oh my god. Anyway, what such fun always. This episode, once again, episode 8 now. What was it called? Surrender. Multiple meanings to surrender on this episode. But good times. Somebody had commented on a previous video of ours saying, the last 3 episodes aren't going to be this big cinematic adventure. The last 2 episodes are going to be. Because this episode, as we have definitely seen now, was the end of Act 2.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be headed straight into Act 3, Frontier Day, with whatever has been coming to a head with all of this mystery. And I'm going to get into the thing that I wanted to talk about the most. All right? The thing that I want to talk about the most, now that we have all of the other villains out of the way, and we only have one that we've been introduced to so far that remains. And that is Face.
Yes.
Your favorite character. Or at least your favorite captioned character.
I've seen some really interesting theories in the last 24 hours.
I am 1,000,000% convinced that this is the Costomogen.
Okay, so I was ready for that. Oh wait, I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Sorry, get ahead of yourself. We'll roll you back in.
Someone loosely made the connection to Enterprise series. Daniels,
okay,
being that villain that was orchestrating this whole temporal war thing. And so someone made the connection that, is this future Vadic talking about it?
I'm not sure how that could be right now.
Anything's possible.
I know, anything truly is possible.
But I've seen
they could techno-babble their way through anything.
Yeah, I've seen so many theories, and a lot of them are just, it's like, oh, I never really would have thought of that. Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be something that just is so extreme that we've been completely taken, something that came directly at the left field and we just never saw coming. I just don't get the feeling that that's
someone the case. Had mentioned, I'm forgetting the name of the title of the episode. Luoxana's getting married once again, but it's to this rather conservative dignitary.
Yeah.
And she's taking a lot of her time with Alexander and the holodeck.
Mm-hmm.
And someone did a screenshot of the head inside the bubble. That was just, all checkerboard and goofy looking and stuff. So there's no limit of possibilities.
There really isn't. There is no limit. I think though that this season has been fairly straightforward when it comes to their presentation of the plot and the story. They kept it a big. The big mystery is what is the face, but that's really like the last thing that's remaining when it comes to the big. Well, I guess what did they take out of Picard's brain? Is it what's going on? I guess is the big unanswered question. But I'm taken to like the vinculum thing that we referenced. And then they referenced again indirectly, kind of preparing us for this Tuvok conversation with Seven of Nine. And I just feel like everything has been so intentional so far that the answer is somewhere either already explored and explained in Star Trek history or through Picard itself. And I think it all hangs on the line that Crusher, or no, was it Deanna? Deanna said, where it is angry and it is ancient.
Mm-hmm. And I have a point to make, but that's at the very end of my notes.
Oh.
So we'll
okay.
get there.
All right. Okay. We can get there. We can get there later. It's fine. It's fine. But I'm into it. I'm into the idea that this is a plot wraith. I'm 1,000% on board if that's the case.
Oh, another one I saw, which I completely forgot about. Next Generation episode, Imaginary Friend.
Okay.
Clara and Isabella. Isabella was this
dot of energy.
Yeah, she was this entity that took the form of Clara's imaginary friend,
right?
But had the red glowy eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So again, another wouldn't have thought that could have been a plot thing, but who knows? Why not?
Oh gosh, why not? Indeed, it's not like they haven't taken little bits of the Next Generation, little time, not big famous moments. Of course, they mention Locutus and talk about Wolf 359, but that was in conversation and really hasn't come up again. But jellyfish aliens from Encounter at Farpoint and Pop Goes the Weasel whistling, all these little things that really aren't talked about or referenced a whole lot have become bigger moments in this season of Picard. So maybe that's entirely it. I think there'd be a number of people that wind up disappointed though if it turns out to just be another version of that one imaginary friend alien from that one episode of Next Gen.
I don't rank that high on the probability list, but
it's still one.
Yeah, it's in there.
Well, hey, cool. Let's dive into the notes then. You spend time, you watch these things a couple of times, and then you write down the notes. And so I appreciate the organization. I do. So we'll take it bullet point by bullet point, starting from the top. Last week we talked a little bit about the Chucky series because I just, I'm an entertainment aficionado is what I'm not. I watched like 4 shows and that was one of them. But me both forgot to mention the biggest connection between the Chucky show and Star Trek, which is the actor who voices Chucky, Brad Dourif, and has since 1988 in the first movie.
I haven't even watched any of the series. I've probably caught 1.5 movies worth of Chucky.
If you like silly, campy horror, that is.
We'll see. I'm not a big horror suspense thriller person. But anyway, when I saw the listing, I'm like, perfect casting.
Yeah,
I can just hear him doing that voice for that role. So another Star Trek convention,
and a great
Star Trek connection.
I'm sure he's been to plenty of Star Trek conventions.
Oh yeah, that.
But great connection, and then also what a great character that he played on Voyager as well. Ensign Lon Suter, one of the only other prominent Betazoids to be featured on Star Trek that isn't a Croy. Lost in the Delta Quadrant, and also a straight up crazy maniac murderer as Brad Dourif plays so well. He got into mind melds and meditations with Tuvok, who was looking to help him suppress those urges. But it was letting that beast out against the Kazon and against Seska that wound up saving the day, even though the character wound up dying at the end of that plot arc. So good. I
think I say this lightly, humorously. If that episode had aired just a little more recently, I think there would have been a lot more connection to the character because of his adoption of hydroponics. because when us in real life humans were dealing with COVID, suddenly everybody became a houseplant person
Yes, yes, they did.
because we needed something to do with our time while we were stuck at home.
Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't want to forget that aspect of his character
Yeah,
development.
putting his energy into making sure that the hydroponics were doing well, growing and having his own little garden, and finding a way to find a connection to something with some peaceful time. I mean, yeah, it's a more accessible character now than it ever had been before. Plus,
Yeah,
there's a lot more understanding and sensitivity and time spent on mental illness.
yeah,
And
hmm
that's definitely something that Suter had been suffering from big
yeah.
time and had expressed a huge desire to move beyond, get past, and grow beyond. So, anyway, Brad Dourif, what another great contribution. Another, I mean, I can't say that in Star Trek he was necessarily a scenery chewer, but he could if he wanted.
hmm
So good. Anyway, next one. Lord Data still controlled the ship. I thought you unplugged him. I did. This was her. Data Lord doesn't have Wi-Fi. I guess they didn't install the Bluetooth chip.
I I just thought that was so funny that everything, all the tech, clearly there's Wi-Fi
Yeah,
connectability.
yeah.
And the most advanced piece of technology on the ship, you can cut them off by pulling
I,
a,
again,
a one what is it, 1/8 phone plug out of the
yeah,
back of his head.
just pull out the Cat 6 cable. Just
Yeah, yeah,
I so really when it comes down to it, this is just it creates a lot of questions and just having to just accept it for what it is ness. When it comes to just the composition of what makes Data,
hmm
because he's simultaneously a flesh and blood full human that you can plug a cable into and then he can control the computer. So like it's both and neither all at the same time, and we just have to
yeah,
take it for what it is at this point. I think.
yeah.
He's still Data who can still do the Data stuff, but he's flesh and blood. Sure, why not? I'm cool with it. Spoiler alert: if you haven't watched the episode, what are you doing here? Go and finish that, and then come on
It's
back.
Sunday.
You know, but yeah, get on it. They're not stopping. We got two left, and they're coming on Thursdays. All right,
You want more? You need to watch it and rewatch it.
and then watch it again, and then after that, watch it a fourth time, and then Paramount Plus is gonna be like, look at the rewatchability of this show. We have to continue to make Star Trek. Like really viewership in the streaming world is more valuable than it ever had been before
Yeah,
because they can directly measure that stuff, not only fresh views for the first time but also repeat watches.
yeah,
They can also compare
yeah.
that to
There's a
swells
whole
and
lot more data.
subscription, you know
No pun intended.
hey.
There's a lot more data that the production companies can get from streaming than they ever could get from Nelson
Yeah,
ratings.
yeah, especially since Nielsen was like one in every 1,000 homes or something like that. It was
Yeah, yeah,
really
yeah, yeah,
only
yeah.
a
It was
small
just this.
section of what people were actually
hmm
watching. And one time they offered a box for my house, right? And then my mom was like, "No, we don't want that." And I learned about that years later, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" She's like, "No, they don't need to know what we're watching." And I'm like, "Yes, they do. Don't you realize that if we had one of those in our homes, the shows that we watched would probably stay on the air?"
I remember trying to apply for one, and it went nowhere. But
They straight up offered one, and she's like, "Nah, I'd
uh,
rather have the privacy." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, ma, all my children would still be on today if we had a Nielsen box."
maybe so. Honestly, the guiding light would probably still be filming outside instead of on a soundstage. So
Oh, could avoid the weather. Anyway, moving to Los Angeles, I've realized why this is where Hollywood is. This is because like every single day when it comes to like the sky is almost identical to the one that came before. This year was slightly different when it came to the weather in the winter, but for the most part, every day is the same.
it's funny. The just a little earlier, my husband Scott was watching Rebel Without Cause,
Hmm.
and it's like they're at Griffith Observatory.
Yeah, yeah,
Never been there, but having seen enough footage of
yeah.
the area, and then I'm watching it a little longer, and I'm like, it looks like they're on a green screen, but they didn't have that technology at the time the movie was filmed.
No.
So anyway, it's just I think it's interesting to when when you've seen um, the region around the LA
Mm-hmm.
County area in person,
Yeah.
and then you start seeing recognizing it in some of these shows and movies, and it's like, in a way, it kind of breaks your suspension. At the same time, it's like, oh, I've seen that in person.
Yeah, the same quarry in Los Angeles is where they go to whenever they need to like go to an area of Bajor. Is that same
Hmm.
quarry in L.A.
Hmm.
Any sort of desert-like planet is going to be filmed at some sort of angle from this area. Same thing on like Stargate SG-1. I don't know if you're into Stargate
Oh,
at all, but
mhm.
I love that show, especially the last 2 seasons with the Ori. That's another podcast we can do entirely. Anyway, they every alien planet was just British Columbia forest.
Mm. Okay.
I like that kind of stuff. And then also, hey, looping it back to Star Trek here. Paramount used to have a set that was just like a cave setting for Star Trek to have access to when they were doing, the two
Uh,
shows at a time all the time. Anytime they needed a cave set, there was one until they filmed Star Trek Insurrection,
okay.
where they needed a much larger cave setting. And so they built a much larger cave set that they kept, and Deep Space Nine used and used and used
Oh,
and used. Even in the finale, that's where the big confrontation between Ducat Wynn and Cisco was. It was the same set that Picard and I don't remember her name, Anij or something from Insurrection slowed down time
oh
while
yeah.
she was
Yeah, yeah.
injured, waiting for rescue.
Where yeah, the whole break the prime directive to snag a local.
Yes, that plot entirely. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
so same
See,
same even same soundstage locations are used across Star Trek.
I thought you were heading in the direction of they were using the Batcave,
Were
because
they?
that exterior location did
Uh-huh.
get used quite a bit
Oh,
outside of Batman.
awesome,
So
awesome. No, I didn't know that connection. That's fun. Oh goodness,
I
Jack's
don't know if
right.
they did. I'm just saying. I was
Oh
just
yeah.
that's what I was thinking.
So I thought of you in the beginning of the episode because of the weapons and panic over the comms, and then Symphony as
Yeah.
Vadic was
Again. Yeah.
orchestrating, directing the screams.
The again the callback to um her trauma,
Mm-hmm.
and this is where I don't want to say she found peace, but she where it's like um that's how I don't know, that's how worked out in her head
Yeah.
that this wasn't pure terror and hell. This was a melody that
Yes.
was being played. It just happened to be played by these horrible sounds.
It sounds like something's directly from the Obsidian Order to me, really. It just seems like an Auburn Tane would just be listening to Garrick torture somebody and just going, "It's just the right pitch to get the truth," you know.
I didn't think about Tane, but yeah, that's a good tie-in there. Yeah,
Oh man, I'm obsessed with Garrick. I even read the book A Stitch in Time, that Andrew Robinson had wrote. Um, so totally into the Obsidian Order, totally into Garrick, totally
I
into
did.
Auburn Tane.
By the way, not long ago, I was able to get my picture taken with
Yeah,
Andy.
yeah, yeah. You've mentioned that before, and that's that. That is
I
that's
was very
peak
happy about
Star
that.
Trek nerdness. Unless you're also like a Hellraiser fan, I guess he was in the first Hellraiser movie.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Again, horror, something we won't be podcasting about together. uh, so yeah, I like that they because it was significant for you, and anything that's significant for you, I like them to revisit because I want you to enjoy the show.
I've
You
been
know,
loving all of it. Oh
I
my
really well.
gosh.
I mean, you have a much more like deep emotional connection to Star Trek: The Next Generation than I do. So to be able to get this quality of a season, and then to be able to watch the show with your influence basically in my ear, and then see the things that you've picked up on also get expanded on in some way or referenced in the past, I'm sitting there going, Matt's enjoying this. Matt's loving this. I know it. I know he's sitting there just going, yeah, give me more. Beam
Yeah,
this into my brain.
the late '80s to extremely well. I think the show
So we're like
last
94.
season of the show was like '91,
What was it, 91? I thought it was like 93. Whatever.
maybe '93. But anyway, it was very early. But that was also a very developmental period
Mm-hmm.
for me as a young adult.
Yeah.
So whatever was going on in my life,
Yeah.
and then my escapism of watching Star Trek, that was very emotional and stuff. So
Yeah,
of course I've carried it over the years.
100%. I totally understand. If they were to do Star Trek Deep Space Nine season 8 and treat it like they've done Star Trek Picard season 3, they can call it, Cisco. I don't know what they would call. Who cares? Whatever.
Mhm.
I know Avery Brooks is a little out there. I don't know if he'd be able to focus himself for a season long performance. I imagine he'd be able to focus himself for a scene, maybe an episode. But I don't know if you saw that Captain's documentary, but I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that he's a little wackadoodle. Comment
Oh,
below
yeah, I know which one
if
you're
you
talking about.
think that I am being mean, because I want to know if you think I'm being mean. uh,
I think there are a lot of creative people that are misunderstood
well, maybe that's it.
because they don't. I, personally, if based on that and a few other interviews and stuff I've seen, I think I could find it being a challenge to converse with Mr. Brooks.
Yeah,
But at the same time, it's like just because they don't communicate in a way that we're used to,
right.
we don't want to also negate the amazing work that they can
Well,
do
definitely not.
when they're on the stage.
That's true.
So yeah,
Yeah, I'm being mean. That was the very polite way of saying that I was being mean. But hey, you put me on the right path. I agree with you entirely.
I could say the same thing about, and I know, this could get us downvoted to hell, but
Do
I
it.
could say the same thing about Bruce Campbell.
Uh-huh.
Different personality,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's like I can't get to his level
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to just in the moment. Just he decides he's going to go this way,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I was just asking you what your favorite brand of condiment was, and now you're developing this character. He's just so good
Yeah. Well, that's a
at what he
compliment. You
does.
couldn't keep up with him because he's too quick. I'm
Yeah,
with it.
yeah.
I'm with it.
Oh, it's
Totally with it.
yeah.
You're probably totally right about Avery Brooks. I've never heard him have a conversation. Like, I don't know what was like behind the scenes at Deep Space Nine. He could have totally been like, no. And then he has like a little piano. It's like, dee 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 dee. We need to make sure that Jake and Benjamin stay very close. Dee 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 dee. He could have been doing this his whole life for all I know. Anyway, I'm just saying that the emotional connection that you have to TNG is the one that I have to DS9. So if we were to have Major Kira, Colonel Kira, whatever she might be now, Kira, I guess in the fictional season 8 that they wrote in the DS9 documentary, she was Vedic Kira.
Yeah,
Vedic Kira walks out, having been a vessel for a prophet. When she battled Jake on Deep
hmm
Space Nine, now has insight into what's going on here with the Costamogen, which I'm just theorizing has been behind everything
yeah,
that's been going on this season.
yeah,
I would melt. I would just fall out of my chair and have to back it up and watch it again.
yeah. I mean, like, what was it? We went how many seasons of Kai Wynn being a Vedic and then being Kai,
Yeah,
and never having been spoken to by the prophets.
right.
And then even then at the end, only being spoken to by the pirate.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, like you're saying, that where we had that big battle,
Mm-hmm.
and Kira was actually touched by the prophets.
Right.
So that would have been a really interesting arc
There's still
to
time.
go on.
There's still time. We could still have her
Yeah.
stroll out during Frontier Day going, I feel like something's wrong. I came straight from Deep Space Nine. I know Nana Visitor would be totally into it. Nana? No, it's not Nana. I know that.
Cinema.
Nana? Yeah.
Yeah.
Jack's Red Eye View, back to Picard Season 3. Similar to that of Borg, first person
So
views.
yeah, so especially going back to First Contact,
Mm-hmm.
when we're seeing whoever is looking, if they've been bored,
Yeah.
we get this. There's a distortion lens
Yeah.
we would always see.
Yeah,
And
yeah. You see that in First Contact also a lot in Voyager.
yeah. So I can't. There's got to be a reason that they chose to do that distortion view.
They just had that file already in the
Maybe
visual effects.
they already had the filter.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the anytime that we're seeing through Jack's eyes, it's distorted very similarly to whenever we've seen through a Borg's view.
Uh-huh.
They did it in Voyager
Yeah.
with Seven
Hmm.
and with what was it, One?
Yes, yes, one arm
So
with the futuristic Borg.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Oh.
I
Hmm.
couldn't. That like stuck with me for a
It's
moment.
all of it. It's pod wraiths, it's Borg, it's changelings, all rolled into one Jack Crusher. Throat impalement. I actually don't know what this reference is to. When it would did somebody get throat stabbed in the throat and I
When
forgot?
Jack made connection to the person that was outside in the corridor,
Oh,
and that person is going around and looking at people, and eventually sees
yes,
one of the Vadic's troops.
right.
But they look over to the left, and someone is freaking impaled through the throat.
Ugh,
And I was like, that. I mean, that was
brutal,
that was a bit much
brutal. Oh gosh.
um, for me.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Um, anyway, I was just
No,
that
I hear
was a
that.
very strong
I totally. I'm
visualization.
so desensitized. I didn't even think about
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And I mean,
that's
Jack pretty much
yeah,
sent this dude to his death. I felt real bad for him because he was just hanging out,
yeah,
hiding, and he's like, "Now I'm under Jack's control. Let me go look around and get shot." I'm like, "Oh,
yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah,
dude,
yeah,
you got this guy killed."
yeah, exactly. So, but I thought it was interesting. They go from one person who's motionless on the floor, may or may not
Hmm.
be dead. They go to another person who's literally not doing well,
Right.
with the whatever sticking out of their throat.
Yeah.
And then we have another person who's just in the literal fetal position
Hmm.
on the floor, and then we pan up and get shot.
Yeah.
Um, so I thought it was an interesting collection of visualizations, but at the same time, it's like that was really graphic in Star Trek terms, and
For
we've seen
going
other
there.
things, but anyway, that just was like,
It's a,
whoa, they went there. Okay,
it's a nod to season one with the graphic depiction of deborgifying characters.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, oh wow, yeah,
Eyeballs and everything. But hey, we got to see. We then fast forward. Not fast forward, but we switch areas. We jump off of the Titan and we go back onto the Shrike or something.
that's right.
Yeah. And we run back into Riker and Troy, who I guess have been captive for a few days now, or at least a day. I don't know, long enough for them to trust each other and be past the testing phase, at least.
I really wish we would have done the telepathy thing, and
Yeah.
they chose not to go with it. Again, they could have done it, and it could have hit the floor, the
Mm-hmm.
cutting room floor.
Yeah.
Um, but I do love. I think if we counted it up, we would hear Riker say Imzadi like twice as many times as we ever heard Deanna say it.
And we know why now.
So, and I liked that where he's like, "I've missed you, Imzadi," and she's like, "I should have taught you another word."
I am so for Riker and Troy this episode, okay? Because previously we really haven't seen them together. We saw in Nepenthe that episode in Picard season
Yeah,
one, but before that they've always had been separated. I guess we got Nemesis. They were, I guess, together. They got married, of course,
yeah.
but still, we didn't see the relationship. They had just
Uh-huh.
gotten together, and so to see the relationship between Riker and Troy, and just the goofiness that Riker
Well,
brings to Troy's life was fun this
to
episode.
see such a relatable, real
Hmm.
relationship of people who have clearly been together for 20 plus
Yeah.
years, and it's like everything you did about me annoys you or annoys me, and everything I do annoys you, but I still love you.
Yeah.
And we've been through this, and we'll get through this kind of thing. I think that portrayal of this long-term relationship, I think, was done nicely.
And we're at a
uh,
point too with them where they're just like kind of like, all right, we're now listen, we're in a enemy jail cell again. Let's just leave all the BS behind now. All right, let's just flesh it all out down the
at least
airlock.
at least this time Troy got to keep her clothes on,
She did.
as opposed to the last time the two of them were abducted and in a jail cell, and
Oh,
she had to find some shiny fabric to cover herself up.
yeah. Not
So
this time. Not this time. Thank the Star Lords. I don't know. I don't know who. Thank the prophets, I suppose. Um, I love to see just their non seriousness with each other. It reminded me of my grandparents who would just bicker, but then it would get to the joke part of the bickering, and then it
yeah,
would be over, and that was just fun to see.
that's a really good tie-in to this next part, with the whole good in bed, bad at pizza,
Yes, yes.
and it. Okay, so since you and I started doing this together, my Twitter is now like 90% Picard.
Right.
And it's cracking me up, but it's fine. It's fine. But it was one of those things where, I've heard people complain about, oh, Facebook was a different beast,
Yeah.
literally the word beast. Um, but with Twitter, I never really noticed this whole, oh, every time I go on, it's all this, negative that. And I never really saw that. But I wasn't constantly looking at one specific show or one
Mm-hmm.
specific political point or one specific person or whatever. I was just seeing a variety of local news and world news and, here's the latest thing that Android can do and da da
Yeah.
da da. But since we've been doing this, I'm seeing a
Just all
lot of
Picard.
that stuff. And so many people apparently were like seriously offended by the whole Troy would never sleep with a changeling and da da da. It's
But
like
she didn't.
she didn't. They didn't. This is a couple who has been together for several decades, and they know how to play with one another.
Good and
There's
bad.
sarcasm. It's clear.
It was. I thought that it was remarkably clear. I'm surprised to hear that people didn't. They must have just stopped listening after she said "good and bad, bad at pizza," because immediately after that she kind of chuckles and goes, "I knew immediately that they were changelings." Immediately, like which immediately means as soon as they walked on the property and they got within range of her empathy, she went, "That's not my husband."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that I really think the people that went to the internet to complain right away
Yeah.
were selling her character very short.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, they weren't getting the whole. This is a couple who knows how to tease one
Yes.
another in a moment of stress to, let's just have a quick little chuckle to deal with the fact that we don't know if we're going to survive in the next 5 minutes.
Right. Right.
Um,
And then also, when it comes down to it, let's be real here. Let's talk about the fact that this is a television show set, or not set, but written in broadcast 2023. If they had a changeling posing as Riker legitimately actually sleep with Deanna Troy, the internet would melt over consent. They're not going to do that.
oh, wow. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, didn't happen. I'm sorry that there was misinterpretation there, but yeah.
Did I? Oh, is it further down? Um, they were talking about the house, but I think I have it further down in my
Oh, they called it a hipster, hipster
the
something.
cabal of retro prairie hipsters
Yes.
in a
Okay.
very
Oh my
judgy
God.
foyer.
Oh. Their the pen thing conversation fed my soul. Okay. Because should they even be there? No. Like, I didn't think about it until they had this conversation, but the fact that Riker and Troy wound up in the middle of nowhere on some desolate, well, some very, not desolate, but very beautiful planet, but off in the far reaches away from everything, it didn't strike me as odd until they said, I hate it there. And I'm like, you know what? You should have hated it there. Go back to the city. Be around these people. I
Well,
mean,
and she and
Deanna's used to feeling the presence of hundreds of people at a time.
yeah, the where yeah she even mentions that it's like we have to be ready to move on to that next unknown. But yeah, the the very judgy foyer got a good chuckle out of me. I appreciated that. Um, but let's see, was there something else? I should have put that up closer to those other notes. I think it's just because of how the scenes were progressing. Um, and then let's see. Okay, so going back. Okay, so I guess we changed scenes. We went back to the bridge,
Yeah, we
and
went back to the bridge.
I didn't. By the way, I didn't pick up on um, Ensign. Is it Esmar?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Or I'm forget what she is an owl, not Alorian. Sorry, that's
Guinan.
wrong species. Um, the episode where Geordi is reading this lieutenant's diaries because he thought she was dead.
Mm-hmm.
It was on a communication relay.
Yeah, I don't remember the character's name, but I vaguely remember the
Anyway,
episode. Yeah.
but apparently that's supposed to be that same species.
Okay, I'm with it. I'm totally with it.
And of course, there were a few theories about like, well, wait a minute, there was a changeling in that episode too. I'm not going to get into all that,
I mean, we
but
got to a point where most of the time, if you saw an alien on the bridge, it was a trill. So I'm happy that we're mixing it up.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, but I do have to tell you, I was gutted when I get what they did, but Vadic goes from getting ready to shoot this ensign and takes out Tavine,
I
and I
know.
was,
You,
oh,
they did that. They did that to you specifically. It's
it was
because you liked
personal.
it.
It was very
They liked
personal.
they wrote this character and they said Matt's really gonna like this character. We're
They
gonna kill her
watched
off.
our reviews
Yeah, and they re-edited
and
the
they
show.
saw that. They went back and reshot it all.
And they vaporized your favorite bridge officer. Now they did that because that was the one that had the lines and the name, and you knew, and the distinct look, and oh yeah, they did that all. Oh yeah,
Oh my
they
gosh.
Mercutioed that woman. Uh,
But it also kind of called back to where um again not next gen, sorry, Wrath of Khan
mhm.
and in communicator over to Savick, and Savick saying, Admiral, David is dead.
Oh, and that was 3. That was Search for Spock, but I know what you're talking
Oh,
about.
Search for Spock. Sorry, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh,
How
that's
dare
right.
you? Oh, I'm going to come at you. How dare you be wrong? Oh,
Right, you're
this is
right.
the internet. There's no space
Because
for
that
that.
was, I'm sorry, yes, because I should have known, because that was Robin. For
Robin
that one.
Curtis,
So anyway,
yeah. Oh, Savick.
um,
Oh, where's Savick?
but
I
yeah,
should
the
watch that
same
show.
thing of like, yeah, this just happened.
Yeah,
So
dead. Dead. And I'm going to do it again in 10 minutes, Jack. Come on up. Where's Kestra is your big question.
there,
Terry Metalis said in an interview that she's totally fine. She's an early entry to Starfleet Academy
yeah,
or something or other.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was interesting, and as they were talking about it, it's like they put it in, but then as they're watching it, it's like it just didn't work. It didn't flow right
Mm-hmm.
for the scene. But I'm glad that we got some clarification that that was the intention.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that it's a legit question.
Yeah,
Definitely.
just
If
like
the changelings got Deanna, where's Kestra?
that's it's just it. It's like they managed to kidnap Deanna, so Kestra. They either that means that the changelings left Kestra on Nepenthe, or she was already somewhere else, and they weren't
Or
concerned
they
about
killed her,
it.
which they didn't do. She's safe. Hopefully
Yeah,
far away from any sort of portal weapons or Picard's brain bits. Um, Morning Thad, don't erase it. Take it. You can't skip to the end of healing. All of that gorgeous, beautiful, wonderful chit chat talk. And cool, kudos, great, awesome to see. Do I find that particular conversation and particular dynamic between Troy and Riker absolutely necessary for the plot at hand right now?
oh,
No.
okay.
No, it's sort of just this side plot that they decided to give these two.
Yeah, I think oh my gosh, I've been again because of the algorithms.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing content that I normally wouldn't see from accounts that I don't follow. And there was one where I saw where they're kind of doing like a radio podcast type
Mm-hmm.
format, and they were talking about Troy and when she was first introduced on Next Gen, and this person was going on, but like, I never realized she was an actual counselor. I'm like, well, apparently you weren't paying attention.
She didn't really do a whole lot of counseling.
No, they didn't, but it was clarified enough times well into the first 2 seasons that that was her role. I mean, not only the
Yes,
fact that
yeah,
they
yeah.
told her that.
I think that there's just this kind of meme fandom out there when it
Yeah.
comes to
Oh
Troy,
yeah.
where she didn't counsel, or she was a bad counselor. That's a whole YouTube video just exploring how she's a bad counselor, about how how Data was a better counselor or something like that.
Well, even what was it? Marina has said on multiple occasions how like the line they always kept giving her was, "He's hiding something. They're hiding something."
Yes, she
And
was
that
she
was
was
her
the
contribution.
she was the lie detector for Picard in a
Yeah.
tense
Yeah.
situation. Uh, so
So
it's good to see. I think that they've taken those mistakes though from a show that was made in the late '80s and early '90s. So
mhm.
let's also remember the times. It's not like these are people didn't pay attention to making sure that women had fair shakes when it came to characterization of their caregiver roles that they always found themselves even in Star Trek.
Yeah.
Um,
What I really liked about that was where she said, you can't skip to the end of healing.
yeah.
That she's still a person,
Mhm.
even though this is her profession
Yeah.
and she's done all this. she's allowed to be a person. And
Yeah,
normally in this situation, we would say human. Um,
half
we can't
human.
say that here. She's a betazoid. But anyway, but that she's allowed to experience life as an ordinary person and not have to be expected to constantly fall into this professional role
Yeah,
when there's trauma.
right, right. Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I liked it, but I get what you're saying. It didn't advance the plot.
It didn't really
Um,
advance the plot. No, it gave us some character moments for Troy and Riker to have, on top of something that is worth talking about. I'm sure it's very relatable to some people who, had traumatic have
mhm.
had experience getting over traumatic loss. So, kudos to that. Awesome, great. It just didn't do anything for me to move the overall plot forward. It's fine. It is what it is. I'm not complaining too hard. But you're totally right. She does come off as a better counselor now than ever before. And then, same thing with Crusher. Beverly's a better doctor than she ever had been before
Oh
as
yeah.
well.
Oh,
So,
I'm loving her
so
portrayal
the
this
lack
season.
of attention these characters got in the original run of Next Generation, and especially in the movies. I mean, they gave Gates McFadden a paycheck to stand in the background of these movies. Essentially, excuse me. So it's great to see the attention and the character choices and the growth and the capability of these characters in the season so far. And I'm sure we're going to get into your notes, but you fast forward to the end of the episode with Troy, and she's continuing to play that counselor role, but saying, hey, usually we would talk through these things over the course of several months, but we got to jump right into the end of healing here. And
Well, not only that, but again, and we'll come back around to it. But up until this season of Picard, um, we're seeing the mom parent version of Troy.
yeah,
Before that, yeah, she had some relationships and lots of experiences and stuff, and she had trauma
yeah,
twice in at least one episode and one movie. Um, but now we're seeing the parental side of it's like there's just so much more development than we ever could have gotten from 30 years ago.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So it's good to see.
it's
It's
joy
good
to
to see.
see.
Also, another joyous thing to see was the moment. Oh my God, just the moments that they create using music from previous Star Trek.
Yeah,
When that blade came through that guard and we got that bum 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 bum,
loved that.
I was like, oh cool, Worf's here.
Yeah, immediately. I don't even remember when that piece was
I
introduced.
remember it from First Contact, but I think it's kind of always been kind of like a Worf swell, in some way.
Yeah.
I don't
Well, I
know.
want
I
to
could be
say
way
like
wrong.
we've
Let us
seen
know in the
it.
comments.
Yeah, yeah. Please, because I know we've seen it like when a bird of prey enters. That's
Yeah,
the opening of a scene or whatever. But I can't remember where we first saw it. But again, as soon as you heard it, and if you're a fan, you knew it's like
I'm like, oh, Worf's here.
you knew
That
who was
was
going to
that
be
was
on the
my
other side.
first thought. I'm like, oh, cool, Worf's here to save the day. And then he is, and then they take that moment. Oh God, though they take that moment. And this is another thing that I wanted to talk about because it's a Deep Space Nine thing for me. Because Worf, he's like, yeah, no, I've counted the days since the last I spoke to you, which is a reference to the fact that they were totally boning at the end of Next Generation, right?
Yep.
Clearly, it didn't last because he got well, the Enterprise crashed and then he got restationed at Deep Space Nine. Relationship fizzled out. Seemed to have fizzled out by the time Generations even came about. Like there
Yeah.
was no reference to it at all. So they had their time, and then it didn't work out. But he has been counting the days, and I would pay good money for the name Jadzia to come out of Michael Dorr's mouth.
Oh.
I would
Hmm.
pay money.
That would have been something.
I want so badly for the face to be Kostamogen because Kostamogen is the one that
Oh.
killed Jadzia.
Mhm.
And Worf had no reaction really to it on Deep Space Nine. Jadzia dies at the end of season 6. He's sad about it, but everything about the death of Jadzia wasn't about the fact that she was brutally murdered by a dark god,
Well,
but
not only that, but it's
everything
like
to do with his new relationship with Ezri.
Yeah, it was already established in next gen, and it was established reestablished again in DS9, where it's like, you killed a member of my family. I'm
Yeah.
gonna get all my Klingon friends together, and we're gonna hunt you down.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that we did not have a single episode in season 7 of Worf trying to hunt down Ducat really bothered me. So
Yeah, yeah.
I just need that mistake to be rectified, and I need this to
Oh
be
yeah.
Kostomogen, and then Worf to be like, "Oh no, you son of a gun, you're back, and you're doing no, you're not gonna. You have killed Jadzia. I will not allow you to take the lives of any more that matter to me. I need it. I
This,
want it.
again, at this point, we only had. Oh, and by the way, it's been pointed out that, and well, we said it a little bit earlier about, like, we're now in Act Three coming
Yes,
up, but from the more I've heard about it, it really does seem like episodes 9 and 10 are part one, part two.
I'm with it.
So again, as we've only had 8 episodes so far, and they've done so much.
Yeah,
So I
and
can't imagine.
I'm totally excited for this next episode too, because I got scared. Okay, because what we do a lot when it comes to these shows is we're really exciting, and then that one episode just before the end we slow it way down. A lot of shows do this. Lost did that. I can go on and on when it comes to examples of the episode before the final run is just like a paddle boat. Like it's so like methodical and detailed and cerebral, and I was worried that that's what we're going to get this next one, because this episode ends with Troy opening the door in Jack's mind, right? And I'm like,
Mhm.
crap, we're going to get a whole hour of walking through Jack's mind, just like we had that whole hour of walking through Picard's mind last season. But no, I saw a clip, the free clip that they put out,
Oh yeah.
the first minute of the next episode. I ain't got nothing to worry about, folks. I got nothing. We're not spending a whole hour in Jack's head. We're barely spending a minute in Jack's head, and I'm here for it. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. I'm just so excited. I'm so excited. He's not a hugger. Worf is not a
I thought
hugger.
that was interesting that Riker was like, he's not a hugger, and then of course there's the rescue scene, and like Riker,
Yeah.
he's throwing his arms around him. Um, but then I think that also led into the whole inappropriate. Is
Yes.
this rescue or more of the torture?
I
I
have
think I
counted the
think it added to
days.
that a little bit.
I was glad to see that he still has a little soft spot in his heart for Deanna.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh gosh. And so he continue. The running gag with Worf is everybody wants to hug him after all this time, and he's just not here for it. Uh,
Yep.
and then again, back on the Titan, Geordi comes in. Where's Picard? Picard comes in to see Geordi. I don't remember. Somebody came in to see somebody, and they immediately had to test each other to see if they were changelings.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. When Picard and Crusher and LaForge get to
Yeah.
LaForge and LaForge.
Yeah, right. Crusher, Picard and LaForge go to see LaForge and LaForge down in the engineering section, with Data's closet. Um, excuse me. And so they test each other, and once again, talk about how bad Picard's wine is.
I'm, I feel bad, but at the same time, I'm loving that it's like, apparently Jean-Luc's closest friends are been like, this recipe that's been in your family
It's
for
bad.
6 generations is not
It's
as good as
bad.
you think it
I love
is.
it though. I love this detail, okay? Because it's always weirded me out that Picard's family ran a winery, okay? Because in the 24th century, we already established, like, you do things because you love it, right?
Uh,
Like, there's no reason to operate a winery unless you feel like you just have a passion for winemaking, and that's what you want to dedicate your life to. Because you don't have to do that. You don't have to do whatever it is to make money. Oh, my family runs a winery, so I'm gonna continue that because it's unnecessary. And so I've always been like, what a weird detail. What a strange futuristic Star Trek detail. And I just love the fact that they've been doing this for generations, and it is god awful. I don't know why I love this, but it legitimizes this strange character trait
uh,
for me in my brain. We spent all this time doing it. We're not good at it. We're not good at it at all, but it's what our family does, and we love that. Our grapes, the sourest, the driest and the sourest that you can find in anywhere in France. And
Oh,
then we go to another one of my favorite things that have ever happened in Star Trek, which is the entire data and lore sequence. They're
mhm,
taking the partition down. All right,
mhm.
we don't have to recap the plot. You guys were here for the plot. You see the plot. You know what's going on in the show. We're going to talk about our reactions and our thoughts and our feelings. They took down that partition, and we didn't get that extended, rest of the season. Brent Spiner being Data and Lore being with each other that I was hoping for. But we
Mhm.
got a good, oh God, how many scenes was it? It was like 3 solid scenes of just
Yeah.
Data and Lore.
And yeah, and Brent had said it during the Ready Room that there were times where it's like they do a clip and then he just immediately walks to the other side of the camera and then they do the other clip and then
That's
it wasn't so
awesome.
much like it wasn't Brent doing data all of the data lines
Hmm.
with a stand-in and then swap. Sometimes he just walked to the other side of the
That's
camera.
really cool, though.
Yeah,
Oh, what a way to stay in the moment.
I liked, and I don't remember if they put the audio in or if it was because I went and watched an older clip, but Data making the comment about Holmes didn't collect anything that didn't have significance to
Oh,
it.
they played that audio at
Oh,
least
they did?
six
Okay.
times. It
Yeah.
was echoing through that whole scene.
So further um, putting weight on the visualizations that we saw.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I I could tell you I had so we saw the hat. I'm like, oh, okay, that's Holmes' hat. And
Hmm.
then we saw the pipe. I'm like, oh, the pipe.
Okay.
He pulls out the hologram. One hand was on my heart, the other hand was on my pearls. I was just I couldn't even. By the time we got through the cards
Hmm.
and then spot, I still wasn't recovered
All
from the
right.
hologram coming out.
So Data's big plan was to surrender because he, just as Lore had said, he's a trophy collector, and Data knew that he was going to collect Data's memories as
Uh-huh.
trophies, integrate them into himself
Yeah.
to be like, I overpowered my brother, because Lore is a man that is. Data was a character that was led by science, logic, patience, and understanding. Lore was the exact opposite of that. He was led by emotions, by quick choices, by anger, by hatred. And because of that, Data knew exactly how to play this. And I was here for it. Because at first, I didn't get it. Because when it comes down to it, when it comes to Star Trek versus anything else that I'm watching, I'm so engrossed in what's going on that I'm not thinking about anything else other than what these characters are going through. I don't know why Star Trek does that for me, and nothing else
It
does, but Star
was
Trek does.
very it was very much David and Goliath, the tortoise and the hare.
Hmm.
Um, Data understood the importance of timing and just um, allowing the other
Yeah.
person to show their faults. Um, so it was just I think it was just so beautifully
It
done.
was beautiful. Yes. Beautiful.
I didn't see it coming until I saw the hologram come out,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh, see what he's doing.
Um,
Um,
yeah, I was on the emotional ride. I wasn't thinking about it all what Data was doing. It's lingering in the back of my brain. I'm like, well, this is how Laura is gonna like what was going through my thoughts and my feelings was I've seen Data die twice now, and I remember Picard mentioning before, oh, Data wanted to pass away. He's ready. He's ready to be dead,
uh-huh.
and I'm like, okay, well, maybe these are gifts. These are gifts that I'm giving to my brother because I love him,
Hmm.
which is something that Laura's never had expressed to him. They left me alone on the planet of the crystalline entity.
Hmm.
They abandoned me back there. So Data was giving him love, the last gift that Data could give Laura. And I was here for it. I'm like, okay, we're losing
Love.
Data again. But he's doing something in such a way that Laura at the end is going to be like, I've realized the error of my ways, and we're going to have good guy Lore now be who we're dealing with. And I was on the ride. I was ready to accept that.
Hmm.
And then they turned it on me in a glorious way. And it was with the hologram and with Spot the most, and clearly because they spent the most time explaining why Spot was important.
Yeah. on that note, um, we should know better than to not put too much weight in continuity.
Yeah.
Because we talked about it the last time we spoke about, it's saying this is what happens when you respect continuity.
Yes.
And they had to refer to Spot with he him pronouns.
Uh-huh.
And we're totally forgetting the entire plot point of Genesis from Next Gen was that Spot's a female.
Oh.
So anyway, I just thought that was funny. And again, that could have been another. We realized this glaring thing. We're just going to point it out again because it is what it is.
I never even thought about that. I didn't even know.
So,
oh gosh.
I mean, because again, it'd been one thing if they occasionally transposed pronouns because it fit to the scene better or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But no. In the episode of Genesis, it was the fact that Spot had babies and those babies weren't transformed, and that led them to then Nurse Ogawa, and it's what helped them get to the end of the story.
That's wild.
So and then suddenly the next time we're referring to Spot, it's like, oh, he's a good boy, he's a pretty cat.
Huh. I didn't even know. I had no clue. I never even thought about that. Clearly, it was no. I mean, when it comes to the amount of respect and attention that the creators of this season have given Star Trek, I feel as though if they knew, they would have said so. They would have said she.
I think this was one of those ones where it's like we can't get around this massive plot hole that we created for ourselves, but was still enjoyed by the audience. So we're just going to put it out there and we're going to let you have it.
Yeah, maybe in the re-release we'll get Britton Spiner to redub it and say she. I mean, it'd be a relatively inexpensive fix. I mean, if Game of Thrones can delete a coffee cup, I think we can get in there and get Britton Spiner to say she.
Yeah.
So, whatever. If it's that big of a deal, I don't know if it's a huge. I'm sure it's a huge.
I just thought, like I said, I just thought it was hilarious that it was like, again, I'm still being all verklempt about seeing Tasha, and then they use a pronoun to describe Spot. I'm like, oh, record scratch. Hang on. So
you must be wondering how I found myself in this situation. But just it's beautiful and gorgeous, though. I mean, to see Tasha Yar there with the hologram, we know how important and Tasha was to Data's development as a human. Like one of the, I guess, early significant relationships that he had, and definitely one of his first experiences when it comes to losing somebody that had become a part of his expected programming or something is how he referred to his fondness to people was, his programming begins to expect the presence of people and he notices when they're not there anymore.
Oh yeah.
Oh. And then of course, fast forwarding here to the very end, because I don't know how many more. Oh my God, there's so many notes and we've been talking for an hour already. Holy smokes.
Some technical difficulties.
Well, I mean, no, we've been recording for an hour.
Yeah.
Anyway, so fast forwarding to the end of the episode, Data completely integrated with all of the Soon programming, can tell jokes, has a sense of humor, uses contractions. I think
we're
pretty
good
sure
here.
you wrote it at the
Use the contraction. No, I didn't.
No, I didn't. Yes, you did. And then I think he used another contraction in the response. I'm quite incapable or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it goes to and what is a flare joie de vivre or something like that.
Yeah.
So what it makes me think of is Generations when Data gets his motion chip first put in there, and he's got to scan for life forms. A little song. So a little sung joie de vivre. Now incorporated into the performance from Brent Spiner. So, who knows what's going to happen in these next two? I mean, they could all, die in a shuttle explosion by the time this is all over, but I don't expect that. But it should be fun watching all these 70-year-olds run around in an action set. It's going to be so cool.
So skipping through some of the notes, one of the things I do want to point out, though, was where Data goes on the comms and says, "This is your friendly positronic pissed off security system monologuing protoplasms." That would have been the perfect point to insert the Avengers theme. because it was from that point where it's like, oh wait, they had a plan,
Yeah.
and they start implementing the plan
Yeah. Yeah.
of
This
of how
wasn't
they're
a thermal
taking back the
grenade.
ship. So,
This wasn't a
but
thermal
that
detonator
was an
from
awesome
Star
moment.
Wars. This was a shield, and we're going to suck you out of the view screen.
Blow you out. So that's my next comment.
Yes.
So I thought it was interesting. The evacuation hatch was behind the view screen, but again, these are Neo
Yeah.
class
It's
starships.
an enormous view screen. All right, the view screen has never been bigger.
Yeah, but it did definitely when they say blow the hatch, it definitely reminded me of Naked Now, and
Mhm.
there's an outtake of where Riker is supposed to say they were sucked out into space,
Yeah.
and Data's supposed to say that's blown out, sir,
Uh-huh.
and it got flipped in one of the outtakes. And so it would have been nice if we had gotten a blown out, sir. But
Not
it was
everything has to be
necessary.
a reference, right?
I know. But it was just like I was giggling. On that.
I mean, I was giggling with Vadic's final line.
Yes, I think I appreciated that much more.
Yeah, effing solids. No, it would have been great to have a Cry Havoc, but that's okay. We don't need it. We don't have to have it. It would just been nice, especially when she was swiveling in the chair in the beginning of the episode.
Again, I love the fact that one of the things, again, because I'm seeing so much Picard related content on at least Twitter.
Yeah.
The fact that the spinny chair has taken on a life of its own in the comments, and not just Jerry. Terry has commented on it.
Mm-hmm.
Todd has commented on it. I'm seeing all these other people commenting on the spinniness of the chair.
I'm going to
So I'm
take
just
it
loving
with
that has become a thing.
She's going to take the chair
So,
with her. Well, she wanted to. No,
yeah.
she can't. And so she gets blown out of the ship and then crashes into her own after freezing in the distance. And I guess, well, here's the thing. Like, sure, they turned into goop, but they turned into different goop. So,
Yeah.
I think why it looked like the blob from the 50s is because they were different. They didn't quite turn into liquid.
I forget, they had a term. They said they had a term for it, and I can't remember what the term was.
Okay.
Again, this came up in Ready Room or
Mhm.
something else.
So I would imagine that now that she's in a bunch of little pieces, even if those pieces were to defrost, she wouldn't be able to reconstitute.
Probably not, because she didn't have the regenerative capabilities that the original engines had.
Yeah. So I guess that's it for Vadic. I'm honestly a little bit surprised, but also not. So I guess we get to move on to Face. So I'm expecting a quick introduction to who the baddie really is. I mean, I hope for a quick introduction because I don't want them to run around for 2 episodes still not knowing who they're fighting.
Yeah.
I don't want a second to last scene revelation. I want this to be over by the middle of the finale so we can spend a solid half hour on the aftermath and the joy and the love.
I mean, this could also be part of Terry's master plan to say, well, this is why we need legacy.
He sure has been championing for it recently, hasn't he?
Yes. I've been putting that hashtag and everything. So who knows? But yeah, I would like. I see what you're saying. I would like okay, we're gonna have 2 hours of touchy feely goodness and good goodbyes and let's tie everything up in a nice little bow.
Like I was because toward the end of Deep Space Nine as a teenager, I was worried that they were going to end the Dominion War and then they were going to end the episode and that was going to be it. This was before I was an adult who understands how TV is produced, but I was worried about that, and we didn't get that. The Dominion War was over by the last hour of the finale, and then we got into the end of the Prophet storyline, and we got to say goodbye. We had flashbacks and Vic Fontaine singing a song, and all of these wonderful things that just really helped close out the series for me. And with Legacy not being something that's greenlit and ready to go, I would like some sort of fun, good feeling finality and not just a sudden go to black soprano style.
Oh gosh. Oh, that would be hard. Oh gosh. There would be riots, I think.
Yeah. Quickly continuing to go down the notes. Date is this me versus that me. Totally great. I'm with it. That me is gone. Basically, just like the original Picard is dead.
Yeah.
The original Data is as well. These are part 2s, copies of the originals now in these bodies. Which is difficult sort of to swallow when it comes to Picard. Data, I'm a little more readily acceptable. to the Gollum resurrection than the Picard one, but it is what it is. I can't deny that it happened because it did, and they worked it into the plot in some way. Whatever they shoveled out of old Picard's brain is gonna come to play in some way.
Uh-huh. Well, the fact that we see the Titan cloak, so it's like, so it's still there. There's still a bunch of bad people everywhere, and they don't know who all they are. So
at least they get to be invisible.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's still all part of that. Go ahead, and I'm going to jump to my very last thing because I got a couple of things. So the whole big red door thing, I had made a note previously to you, and then I didn't realize that you probably wouldn't pick up on it because it was a regional thing.
Okay.
There used to be these spas by Elizabeth Arden called Red Door, and then even before the pandemic, they started shutting them down.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went and looked, and apparently the spas don't exist anymore. But every time I kept seeing this Red Door, it kept making me think of this spa chain.
Okay.
So, but anyway, that was the reason for that.
Well, that's what's really behind the door is just, luxury.
What I picked before I started seeing other people's, feedback and views and stuff like that, I was noticing there was a huge visual similarity with Soji's Red Sky visions, and then also the keyhole with the last season when we explored Picard's youth and his mother's mental health and such. So I thought those were interesting visual elements. Again, earlier I mentioned about the Nebula people with the imaginary friend, but there was the biggest speculations were obviously something Borg related. But then, and then something Thad related. Because what would have elicited that kind of reaction from Deanna that she's like, I can't, and runs out. But something I hadn't considered, go back to season 1 of Picard.
Okay.
This is the alliance of synthetic life.
Yeah.
That Soji was prepared to call back in. And apparently trans-dimensional beings or whatever, but they were all
the Reapers from Mass Effect. I remember.
Yeah. Thank you. I was thinking the exact thing. So anyway, but yeah. So I had forgotten about that whole. We're gonna bring in these beings that are just totally gonna wipe out existence of organic life. So maybe that was something that Deanna saw on the other side, and would kind of.
It's all of it rolled into one. It's an assimilated interdimensional robot that ascended to godhood and became a power wraith. All because Q died.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Q was the galactic barrier.
They were kind of holding them back a little bit.
Yeah, the energetic barrier keeping the power wraiths at bay.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I don't know. I'm with it. If we do Star Trek Legacy, though, we gotta roll. We gotta get a Jake Sisko in there or something. I need it. What Molly O'Brien? What's she up to?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, little Molly O'Brien.
Or even
the other
Voyager.
One? Oh, yeah. See, there we go. We could pull them too. We have Naomi Wildman.
Thank you.
Right, Scarlett Palmer's still around, right? We just recast her.
I'm still a bit upset about how dirty they did
Icheb.
Yes.
It's funny because I did create a Twitter account for this podcast. I just don't use it. I don't have the focus to tweet for 2 shows. What? Kill me, send me money. I'll do it. Anyway, so I created a Twitter account, and I played around with it a little bit a couple of months ago. And Manu Itriami, who's the actor who plays Ichib, immediately followed the account.
Oh,
and I'm like, all right. I guess if I ever wanted to reach out to somebody to see if they wanted to talk, you might be receptive. That'd be fun. I liked Ichib. Ichib was a really good character to kill off in such a way. And what a great way also to just reintroduce us to Seven of Nine and give her a great motivation in the beginning of Picard as well. You know, I know that it tore the heartstrings out of people. It made me sad. It was really horrific and gory, and just what a sad way to see that character go out ultimately. But to be able to use it to, you know, describe Fenris Range's Seven and her state of mind and what she's up to and why she has this tie to this criminal underbelly, perfect. Did no wrong. They really did 7 of 9 very well this series. Even being, you know, stepping out and being like, no, this is me facing the consequences, Captain. My name is 7 of 9. By the way, please stop calling me Commander Hansen.
He did. Moments later, he calls her Hansen.
Yeah, well, you know, that's what he does. He's a jerk.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, that was Picard. That was Picard's Surrender. We still got 2 more episodes. I don't know what's going to happen. I also don't know when we're going to podcast about them, but we will. Yeah. Eventually.
Figure it out.
When Matt figures out his life, he'll tell me, and this Matt will arrange his around that. But that's it, folks. That's it. That was Deck 10. That was this episode 8 of Picard Surrender. What a ride. Super fun. In conclusion, I want more. Don't stop me now. Because we're having a good time. Anything else? Shall we get back on the turbo lift, or is there anything else you want to cover?
I think I need to go back to my quarters and lay down after that. I
understand.
Episode.
I mean, there's so much to get through. They packed so much into this series that there was just, you know, like if we did a podcast over the last 2 seasons, it would have been like all kinds of just not talking about the show because we would have been able to cover it in 15 minutes because the episodes were so slow and drawn out.
Yeah.
You know, which is a style. But it's a different style than what we got this time. Anyway,
yeah,
the turbo lifts.
We're definitely getting multiple seasons, so yeah. We need more time to process.
Need more time to process for sure. So onto the turbo lifts, back to our quarters. We're gonna have some holographic communication with our families or something. I don't know. Enjoy the holiday, or hope you enjoyed the holiday if you celebrate, and if you didn't, I hope you enjoyed your Sunday. All right, that's it. I'm Matt. And that's Matt. And we're getting out of here. Bye.